There are many videos on the internet explaining the ending of The Power of the Dog, and many others addressing the topics of
toxic masculinity and queerness in the Old West.
Nonetheless, today I decided to approach this movie in a different way, by reading what the scenes tell us and thus relating the narrative facts and dialogues to what is presented to us visually. That's the power of cinema. In the first scene of the Burbank's brothers, they are separated. Phil enters the house with dirty and heavy clothes, and George is taking a bath in a bathtub. We see that there are 2 beds in the room, indicating that the brothers probably sleep together. The personality contrast between the 2 brothers is accentuated even more in the scene where they drive the cattle, in their clothes, and even more in the hat. Phil is dark, has brins turned up, indicating his boldness and bravery typical of cowboys. George is the opposite. His hat is lighter, has straight brins, indicating a more relaxed guy who just wants stability and who is much more closer to the city than the environment of the ranch. From the slurred dialogues and Phil's negative reactions, we can see that there is a gap between the 2, who should have been more united before. We see that Phil has a great appreciation for the past, something that will be reiterated several times throughout the film. George, on the other hand, seems distant, perhaps concentrated on something else. Then we have a heroic and dramatic shot of the cowboy, conveying an imposing image of his person and thus reinforcing the idea of his protagonism. After this scene, cut to a close-up shot where we see someone carefully cutting pink paper. Look at the first bond established between Phil and Peter. The great Phil is driven into a painstaking act of mutilation by an outside force, who reveals himself to be Peter. The next shot could be, for example, a long shot or even an American shot of Peter cutting something, but we have a close-up shot, and that makes all the difference. It prepares the viewer for what might unfold in the film. It's kind of a prediction of the future.
Create a sense in your brain that, oh, you've seen this before, I warned you about that, and you were not paying attention.
Because we get so attached, to the dialogue and to the events that we forget to appreciate cinema for its image, the composition. Now see how Rose is presented to us for the first time. In an open take, first the wet floor, then a woman with the task of cleaning it. It's not an impactful way to bring a new character into the plot, and this take shows that in addition to being a working woman belonging to her environment, she is also responsible for cleaning the establishment in which she lives. So her routine and tasks will change completely after the wedding. Then she goes to her son's room and continues to work there. She exerts her presence over the house. Her attention is turned to Peter's tasks, which shows a notebook of collage, where Rose is shown admired by a mansion and a married woman with flowers in her hand. Her dream will soon come true, as we see, but in a much more nightmare scenario due to the presence of her brother-in-law. She and the audience gets disappointed because her dream is not true, and the only thing in her way is actually Phil. The first time I saw the movie, I thought Peter had a love interest in that woman. Because of the stares, the dialogue, everything has a bit of an ambiguous tone.
After I saw the film, I was like, oh, they are mother and son, what a weird thing to think about. But anyway,
right after she talks about the wedding flowers in the photo, she goes to the paper flowers her son made. That's very interesting because these paper flowers, they are not perennials like natural flowers, so they can be eternal as long as someone doesn't set fire or get them wet, for example. Her son was bringing to real life the thing she wanted. The image is made out of paper and the flowers are made of paper. So it's like he took that paper, the dream, and he turned it into something real that is the flowers. Even though these flowers are not real, they are as real as it gets because they won't die anytime soon because they are not alive. A son's affection for his mother is more enduring than any other. There is such a great network of meanings when it comes to these flowers. Another thing they indicate is the three dimensions in Peter. One is of a sensitive masculinity. Two is a caution to detail. Three is a coldness when he replaces the natural flowers of the father's grave for paper ones because this wouldn't need to be changed often and he wouldn't get to have that work of changing the flowers every day. He's also a very practical boy. That's what we can see by this act. So returning to the bedroom scene, at the end of all that loving and delicacy gesture, Rose asks him to kill some chickens for lunch, and he obeys the command in an unbothered way. So it's a very normal thing for him to kill some animals. And that's all we need to know about the essence of Peter's character. Just a single scene told us everything we need to know. But for the public to retain and assimilate even more such information, it needs to be repeated. That's why Peter takes the rabbit and presents it to his mother, but then appears dissecting it as if it were nothing. In another scene with the rabbit, another rabbit, which he is going to sacrifice, he calms it down and then kills it, and makes it different from Phil, who shows himself perplexed to that situation because probably in his hands the rabbit will have a violent and cruel end. This is a scene that shows precisely what is the difference between these two characters. Both were going to kill the rabbit anyway. Their reasons may or may not be different, but either way, how they chose to do so makes them distinct from one another. Do you remember that I talked about Rose's dream being represented in the scene where she admires the colleges in her son's notebook? So they become real in this scene. There is a woman married in a mansion holding a bouquet of white flowers. But her dream soon falls apart. Also note the color of the outfit she's wearing. Red. There is an important symbolism here. Without a doubt, it is a feminine color as it refers to menstruation, blood, and therefore link it to womanhood and fertility. Moreover, it also represents passion and love, something that did not exist in that house before her arrival. Therefore, it's not something common, it's not something that happens daily, so it should not be discreet. And red is the perfect color to show like,
Hey, I'm coming.
The power of this film is due to many things. However, I emphasize the use of long takes and close-ups, or extreme close-ups. Long takes force us to stay with those characters for a long time, provoking an immersion in their subjectivity. Therefore, it causes an effect of intimacy and, more importantly, of witness. The close-ups are a pile of gold in Jane Campion's hand, as she highlights what is at stake in the encounter of those relationships. If it's Rose's trembling hands on the piano that will determine whether or not she is approved by that family, if it's Phil's hands on Bronco Henry's saddle expressing all the contained desire he still carries for the dead, or if it's the tying of the rope's ties affirming the inevitable destiny of those four characters. As I decided to make a short video, I'll stop here. If this review helped you to understand more about cinema or open your eyes to this movie, give it a like and subscribe. It helps me a lot. Thank you and see you later. Have a good day.